Hey guys, welcome to today's episode of Talking Decon. I'm Laura Spalding, CEO of Spalding Decon, and to my left here is Steve Miller, our Director of Marketing, and to my right here is Fiona Mills, our franchise ramp-up coach. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Good?
How are you?
Good?
Super excited to be here. I do want to say something before we jump in.
Yeah?
I've been reading the comments. I don't look like Ron Jeremy. I don't
Actually,
care what you say.
You kind of do.
Okay.
You know, I
Evan?
actually did a side-by-side, and I was like, I see it.
I see it.
Okay,
Yes.
well, this is not helping my case. I figured as a team you guys would pull behind me, but instead you're burying me.
You really think you don't look like him?
Maybe it's a deep-seated desire to not want to look like a serial rapist. I don't know.
Well, I get comments that I look like Rosie O'Donnell and some cook, some chef. I've never seen her before. I don't remember her name, but somebody said the chef. And I Googled her once and I look nothing like her. So the only thing I guess we have in common is we're all three fat. But other than that, we don't look alike. So
I typically get like Bradley Cooper or Channing Tatum.
yes.
So I'm very surprised
Yeah.
to have gotten Ron Jeremy.
I see it though, and I think
I've
it's
seen
the
them more than
mustache.
once, too, though.
It's the mustache.
Well, okay. Well, then I shouldn't have even brought this up. I'm sorry.
We
I
should have
apologize.
spoken prior.
Yeah, we should have had a conversation.
No, I see it though. I kind of
I do see it.
Some people think Fiona's Pocahontas.
Yeah?
Yeah, with my hair's down.
You know what? I'll back you up. I don't see that. Okay? That's me being a good teammate.
I see the hair.
Yeah.
Sure, the hair. Yeah.
But we digress. So what do we got today?
Cool. So for my case today, we're going to go to the Great White North. We're heading up to the hockey-loving, maple syrup-chugging land of Canada.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I
Love
feel
it
like
up there.
we've been in Canada quite a bit, even
Canada
though
does all right.
I consider them the normal people of North America,
Sure, but
and we are the abnormal.
well, that's certainly how it feels, but Canada's got their shadiness too.
I mean, they do, but not near as much as us.
No,
but then
for
again,
sure
there's
not.
a population discrepancy between the two of
Absolutely.
us. So,
Yeah.
forgive us. We are all nuts.
Yes. So I want to thank Lee McLean for suggesting this case.
Awesome.
And I really want to thank them for suggesting it because I had never heard of it. And which when you hear the details of the crime spree and the victims that are associated with it and the violence associated with it, I'm shocked that the name has never come across before because I consume a lot of true crime stuff, but I've never heard this guy's
But you
name
know what's
before.
odd? I feel like Canadians hear more about our crime stuff. We rarely hear about theirs.
I think that the Ken and Barbie killers are certainly exceptions to that, which we talked
I hadn't
about.
heard of that.
Yeah, which we talked about recently on a recent episode. But yeah, mostly, it feels certainly like American culture is exported more than foreign cultures imported.
And
to
I
the
feel
States,
like it's
so.
not just Canada, it's even Europe. They know exactly what's going on with
Yeah.
our social stuff and, all the drama that goes on with our TV stuff.
Well, we keep it interesting.
But we have no idea even what form of currency they're using.
No,
Like,
and
we're
as
the dumb
anybody-
Americans.
Yeah, as anybody that's watched a single
Yeah.
episode of this
Yes.
can attest to,
We know
if
nothing.
it takes place outside of America, we think everybody's getting around in kangaroos.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So I do want to say that this case involves the death and torture of children. And I know that for people that are even into true crime, sometimes that could be a little bit unsettling. So if that's not your cup of tea, fair warning to you. So that being said, let's get started.
Yep.
Our subject today is known as the Beast of British Columbia. He's responsible for killing 11 children and young adults from ages of 9 to 18 between 1980 and 1981. This particular monster's name is Clifford Robert Olson.
1 year. That's
year.
it.
So what was so scary about this guy and his crimes was the frequency with which he killed.
Oh, clearly.
He murdered 11 people between November of 1980 and July of 1981. So in less than a year. And we'll go through the dates as we go through his crimes. And there are so many things that happen beyond his crimes itself that are so unsettling from a procedural standpoint, from the police, from a governmental standpoint, from certain things being paid out, that it really, it's just a big handbag of like it's just a nightmare. So sources for today's episodes are Wikipedia, Murderpedia, CBC.ca, and the Globe and Mail. So Olsen was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, January 1st, 1940. So he's a New Year's baby. How super exciting.
Whoa.
From
Spring chicken.
Yes, yes.
It's a boomer.
So for the time that he was a child, this kid was trouble, right? He was just one of those, he's a bad seed.
Yeah, see,
He's a
we're
bad
seeing this
seed.
over and over.
Yeah, exactly. His father, Clifford Olson Sr., said he was always getting into fights and getting beaten up. And one day he said, "Dad, I'm going to learn to be a boxer." And then as soon as he started training in boxing, he started making the rounds of the boys that had beaten him up. And then he started evening the score. And maybe that's his trouble, said his father, that chip on his shoulder. So apparently, even from a very young age, kid had beef.
Yeah, but I can see how he was pissed off. Like,
Sure,
he's
if you're
always
going around
getting his
getting
ass
beaten up, of
kicked and all
course.
that. And he's
Yeah.
finally like, okay, I've got some confidence now with boxing.
Right.
I'm going to go back and get my name back.
And had the story ended there and he went on to build a successful video rental business,
Exactly.
we'd all go, what a great, compelling story.
Yeah.
But since he
Or
on
he
to
went
murder-
to the Olympics as a boxer.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been great.
I'm watching that movie. I'm watching
Exactly.
that movie. We're not talking about it here,
No.
but we're all watching that movie.
This
for
is
sure.
no Balboa, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So he began to skip class when he was only 10 years old.
Ooh.
And after completing grade 8, he quit altogether to embrace a life of crime.
So he was brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. He was known as a loner, and he was jailed for the first time in 1957 when he was only 17 years old. Over the following 24 years, he chalked up nearly 100 convictions
Whoa.
from obstructing justice to possession of stolen property, possession of firearms, forgery, fraud, parole violations, impaired driving, theft, breaking and entering,
So
armed robbery.
non-violent crimes other
Well,
than the armed robbery.
Correct. Then they start to escalate. Then rape,
Oh.
gross indecency, and then finally first-degree murder. So he had a long history of violence.
It's like an acceleration, though, because
Yeah,
it's probably
exactly.
started with like some petty
Sure, it
theft,
starts with petty stuff, and then it just ramps
but
up.
then it gets
crazier
really
and crazier and
serious.
crazier.
Wow.
Yeah. So he escaped from jail 7 times.
Escaped.
Escaped from jail
But
7
how?
times.
Foxy Houdini.
How?
So I read through some of the escapes. Some of them were super interesting, but I didn't want to delve into them too much. Like,
Why? That's
he's-
fascinating.
He was caught by search dogs twice. Like, because in fact, one time he got out of Canada, but they spotted him at the border because he's right there at that border, right in that British Columbia,
Yeah.
Vancouver type area, and he was like laying under a bridge for hours, and they were crisscrossing finding him, and then finally was when they brought the dogs in that they got him.
This is
But
some
how did he
Shawshank
get out?
Redemption shit.
Yeah.
How did he get out?
I apologize. I don't know.
What?
I know.
Let's
Oh
just
my
end now.
Yeah. You're
Oh
all
my
very disappointed in me.
God.
I
Yeah.
understand.
I mean, that's fascinating.
So as I was reading about this, what's super interesting is that in America, and I couldn't find the exact date, in America it used to be, and it's still true in some other countries, where if you escape from jail, it's not a crime. They don't give you additional time. The philosophy is it's a completely natural reaction to want to escape from jail. So if you escape from jail, we get you, we bring you back, right?
And-
Which is super wild, super wild.
because it's a natural reaction.
Right, like any human being would want to escape jail. Nobody
Okay.
would want to be there.
Let me be
Therefore,
devil's
we can't
advocate.
penalize you.
Let me be devil's advocate here,
Sure.
okay? You're a woman in a battered wife relationship,
Uh-huh.
right? Marriage. You're getting the shit kicked out of you on a daily basis. It's your natural reaction to defend yourself. You shoot the bastard. Why do they go to jail?
No, this is a great point, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right?
this is a great point. So if it's one of these countries, and I apologize, I don't have the list in front of me, but if it's one of these countries where it's like a natural reaction to escape from jail, but you can't kill your husband for beating you,
Yeah.
then that's no good.
You're
yeah,
Yeah.
then that's no good. I'm not
That
into
makes
it.
zero sense.
No,
Is
it's
the
like
U.S.
ass
one of them?
backwards.
No, it used to be.
Oh, okay.
A long time ago, not
Yeah.
even recent history, like a very long time ago. So
Wow.
Olsen was freed under mandatory supervision 5 times in the 1970s. So he keeps getting arrested, he keeps getting out. And each time his behavior landed him pretty much right back behind bars. He was never out for
So
long.
their justice system must mirror ours.
A bit of a revolving
It
door.
doesn't work. Revolving.
Yeah, a bit of
Okay.
a revolving door. So in prison, Olsen was known as a rapist and a sometimes informer.
So he was popular.
Oh, yeah, real popular. In fact, he
was popular with the ladies.
He got stabbed in prison multiple times for being a snitch. Like he was a stool pigeon, which comes into play for some of his crimes down the road, right?
Ah.
So in fact, one time he coached a fellow inmate, a guy named Gary Marceau, into writing a detailed confession of the rape and mutilation of a 9-year-old girl. And then later he surfaced as a witness for the prosecution in the trial. Right? So he talks this guy into confessing confess your sins, and then pops up later, And he kept up this role as a stool pigeon even after he left prison, So he gets out of prison in 1980, and according to most accounts, he was constantly revved up on alcohol and pills. And pretty quickly from this moment, he moved in with his girlfriend and their illegitimate son, like I mentioned, and right away he starts targeting young people for abduction very quickly upon getting out of jail. So he met them. He had a standard routine to lure in these adolescents. He would meet them in video parlors, which I'm assuming are like video arcades, something of that nature.
Right? Like games and
and youth hangouts. He would advertise for them on bulletin boards, seeking people to help for work or job opportunities.
Was it females only?
No.
Oh,
It was
both.
male, female. It was all the way as young as 8, all the way up to 18.
Wow.
So it was not like there wasn't a type.
Yeah.
His thing was just murder and torture.
Wow.
Like he didn't. That was his thing. So he'd hold out the prospect of a job, give them rides to fictitious construction sites, and along the way he'd offer them, a sip of something to drink, and he'd always spike it with something. He'd spike it with chloral hydrate, which is a knockout drug. So whether or not he was giving them, a soda or a cocktail, like he always dosed it with something.
How do you get that? How do you a guy like that? How does he get his hands on that drug?
That's a really great question. You'd imagine it would be. I wonder what the actual purposes
I can't even
of a
get any
knockout drug are.
Zyrtec, and these people are getting like, really? Come on, I'm dying over here.
It's a solid point, man.
It is. I mean, seriously.
I can't get sinus medication.
I know.
Because somebody somewhere cooks it up to get
I
high
have to
with.
sign and show my ID for Sudafed, for Christ's sake.
Ugh.
And this guy's getting this
Just walk
type
around
of
with knockout drug. Hey, John, how's it going? Pretty good, Cliff. You need
Yep.
some more chloral hydrate? Sure
Yeah.
do, buddy.
Sure, I have a date on Friday.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
There should be some red flags going
Yeah.
up here for sure.
100%.
Once the child or the adolescent or the young person was knocked out, he would overpower them and he'd engage in sadistic experiments. In one case, he drove a 3-inch spike into a child's head. On another, he injected them with air embolisms. He talked about them as science experiments. And
Wait, while they're alive, he's injecting them and stuff.
yeah, like, well, an air embolism will kill you. And I'm sure
Yeah.
driving a 3-inch spike into a head will kill you as well. So he really got off on this, and he saw himself and he fantasized about himself as being a hero that he called the Silver Hammer Man, which was a reference to a Beatles song.
Wait, how is he a hero?
Well, he saw himself. He fantasized about these things, and he fantasized about his fame, and he saw himself as this character,
Oh.
the Silver Hammer Man.
He's a hero serial killer.
Right, like
Okay.
I shouldn't say hero. I should say superhero.
Okay.
Like that's how I'm picturing this to me. Like
But
I'm,
superheroes are supposed to save people, not kill
one would
them.
imagine. Yes, one would
Okay.
imagine.
Just not in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, Canada's up backwards, right?
Yes, so backwards.
Yeah.
So Olsen would scatter their bodies from the bogs and cranberry fields of Fraser River Delta to the abandoned quarries and canyons of the coastal mountains. So that's like a quick summation, right, of like his crimes because they're so intense, they happen so quickly. But now I want to talk about the victims and what he actually went through. So when he got out of prison in 1980, he starts pretty quick with Christine Weller on November 19th, 1980. She was 12 years old.
Ugh.
She was found murdered. She was stabbed to death. He drove her to an abandoned area of Richmond, and where she was murdered with multiple stab wounds to her chest and abdomen. She suffered 10 stab wounds and 2 superficial slashes to the neck. She had a double perforation in the right ventricle of her heart, 4 penetrating wounds in her liver, right? So he gets her,
Jesus.
convinces her to get in the car. And this is another thing. This guy was incredibly charming. Like even his...
Like a Ted Bundy.
Yeah, his ex-wife was like, I never met a woman that didn't like him.
Yeah.
And he was a very flashy guy. Like he would buy the most expensive business cards and he wore expensive suits. Like he came off that way, so he was able to get people in their car and
Right.
lure them in,
Did his wife have any inkling that this was going on? Or was she oblivious?
His wife is going to come. So his wife comes into play in this story in
Okay.
a fairly major way. She says absolutely not, that she had nothing to do, that she had no knowledge of any of this stuff, and that she, in fact, herself was abused. And it wouldn't be surprising at all if that was the case. I happen to believe her, but something happens at the end to convict him, and
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, Canadian politicians made some choices that bring her in,
Okay.
and it's odd.
Okay.
It's odd.
But he was married the whole time.
Yeah, with a kid,
was-
right? I think
yeah,
you
they
said
had
one kid.
they had an illegitimate son. I saw it mentioned one place where it was his illegitimate son. I saw it mentioned another place where it was her child. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure on that. So this is November 19th, 1980. He takes his longest pause here. And then on April 15th, 1981, he picks up Colleen Daigneault. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. She was 13 years old, picked her up in Surrey and drove her to a remote part of South Surrey where she was attacked and murdered with repeated hammer blows to the head.
Oh,
Yeah.
a child.
Yeah. So he takes this 13-year-old girl, convinces her to get in the car, knocks her out with, these drugs.
No
drives her
sexual
out.
assault?
Not here. No,
Okay.
not in this one. But there are cases of rape.
Okay.
There are some cases of
But
molestation
that
for sure.
apparently wasn't his motivating factor. He just wanted to kill.
Yeah. In fact, there's a psychiatrist that talks to him later that's basically like he was addicted to murder. Like that's what he liked to
Wow.
do. He liked killing people.
I just don't get how you get to that. Like how that
There's
becomes
a screw
an
loose.
addiction.
Clearly.
Yeah. He's like a legit psychopath. like from the time he was a child, he was a psychopath. And we're going to talk about that sort of at the end, like, because all this stuff comes out. Like I mentioned, that psychiatrist that he spoke to gave him, and I don't have the note in front of me. It's within my notes, but gave him a test, and it's like he scored 34 out of 35, or whatever the case was. So it's like the highest this guy had ever seen. You know,
I need Fiona to take that test.
We should all take that test.
Right. So this is April 15th.
Yeah.
On April 21st, he kills Darren Johnsrud, who was a 16-year-old boy. He was picked up in New Westminster and driven to DeRoche, where he was murdered by, again, repeated hammer blows to the head. Then he takes another break, and on May 19th, 1981, 16-year-old Sandra Lynn Wolfsteiner was picked up at a bus stop and driven to a remote area where, again, repeated hammer blows to the head. Very few skeletal remains were ever found, but the cause of death was determined to be head injuries.
Okay, so at this point, there's 5, and the police have to understand here that there's a lot of common denominators.
Yeah, we got some people going missing.
Yeah,
you know, we got
children all
some
killed the same way.
Missing.
Yes, except for the
well,
one.
some of these bodies aren't found yet. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Some of these people are only known to be disappearances.
Right, but when it's a child, it's like all hands on deck.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Some of the 16-year-olds, like for some of those, the police were like, you know, what are you gonna do? Probably run away, you know. So that's May 19th. So then on June 21st, 13-year-old Ada Anita Court, she was picked up while walking and driven to a remote area near Weaver Lake, where she was murdered again by repeated hammer blows to the head. Skeletal remains were found later. Several depressed skull fractures were found. July 2nd, so now we're about 2 weeks away. Simon Patrick James Partington was 9 years old when he was murdered.
Jesus.
The deceased was picked up 2 blocks from his home and given a ride. During the course of the ride, he was taken to a remote area of Richmond, given a couple bottles of beer, and then strangled. You know. July 9th, 7 days later. Julie Kozma. Kozma was 14 when she was murdered. She was picked up in New Westminster, driven to a remote area near Weaver Lake again, where she was murdered by multiple stab wounds. So around this time, Olsen starts becoming a suspect in all these things.
Oh, he finally does.
His name, for the first time, gets mentioned by police on July 15th. Well, I think how, because he has such a criminal history. He was such a known criminal.
And this was all in the same area.
And he's living in this area. And it's like, okay,
we need to at least look at
who the hell could be out here doing this? Like, where are all these people going? You know?
So they start watching him?
Mm-hmm. They start watching him. They place him under sporadic surveillance.
Sporadic.
However, he was still able to commit 4 more murders in the last weeks of July.
That's some good police work.
Was it during the daytime or nighttime? Or just
it was mostly during the day, I believe.
I mean, these kids are out.
They're kids, yeah. You know.
Wow.
So he's placed under sporadic supervision.
He's completely unaware and he commits 4 more murders.
And there are a lot of people that think that he wasn't looked at more closely sooner because he had always cooperated with the police, because he was sort of a known informant.
Yeah.
You know, they think that may have made them look the other way fairly quickly.
Jesus.
So July 23rd, the last murder was the July 9th. Raymond Lawrence King Jr. was 15. He was picked up at a bus depot leaving what they call a manpower office in New Westminster, which I imagine is like a labor type job type thing. Driven again to a remote area near Weaver Lake, he was thrown down an embankment and murdered while unconscious by rock blows to the head. So this list that I'm reading from is obviously incredibly troubling, and they didn't go into this is enough detail to satisfy me, but some of these like other ones that I mentioned up top with the air embolism and the spike through the head, like they didn't break it down by exact victim, which I'm fine with. I didn't want to dig any further into. These are children, and I wasn't crazy about it. So that's July 23rd. July 24th.
The very next
day. Sigrun Charlotte Elizabeth Arndt was 18. She was picked up from Coquitlam, I'm sure, sorry, Canada, and driven to a remote area of Richmond where she was murdered by repeated hammer blows to the head, thrown in a ditch with water to be buried. The cause of death was massive head injuries.
Jesus Christ.
On July,
this is severe anger.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is what's so like when I mentioned like the violence associated with this and the
to
window,
random people.
Yeah, we're just grabbing people day after day.
But the anger.
Yeah,
I mean,
and hammer blows feels like an incredibly personal and angry way of doing it, right? July 27th, 3 days later. Now let's remember, he's under sporadic surveillance during this time. Terry Lynn Carson was 15. She was picked up at a bus stop, driven to a remote part of Chilliwack, where she was murdered by strangulation. So again, another very personal,
looking right at him.
July 30th, Louise Simone Marie Evelyn Chartrand was 17. She was picked up while walking to work in Maple Ridge, BC, driven to the Whistler area where she was murdered by repeated hammer blows to the head. Her decomposed body was found with evidence of massive skull fractures, right? So, on August 12th, Olsen is driving around and he's being trailed by some police officers. He stops and picks up 2 female hitchhikers.
Nice.
They pull him over.
Good.
They arrest him.
Good.
So within the car, they find an address book that contained the name of Judy Kozma, who's one of his victims.
Okay.
Police were able to hold him without bail on 2 charges of burglary, which he had committed under surveillance. So he was under surveillance. He committed 2 burglaries, but they just let him go because they're looking for the bigger issue, which I totally get.
Yeah, totally.
But they had no evidence.
Right.
They have no evidence on him to hold him or tie him to any of these crimes. So like, what do we do? Well, we got him for the burglaries.
Right.
So we can hold him for those.
For that. Yeah.
Olsen was formally charged with her murder being Judy Kozma 6 days later. Olsen started to deal with the prosecution, striking a bargain that would net his wife and child $10,000 per victim in return for information on 4 known murders and directions to the 6 outstanding bodies. So at this point, they found 4 bodies, and they have 6
left.
other disappearances.
Right.
So he says, "Hey man, I'll give you the bodies.
Right.
I'll tell you where they are. 10,000 per."
Wow.
Yeah. So tapes of the interrogation sessions, notes from investigators, and then
They agreed to it then. The cops.
they agreed to it.
Okay.
And then later conversations provided a vivid picture of what happened. So this is quotes. This is from Olsen. "I'll give you 11 bodies for $100,000," he told investigators. So Corporal Fred Mail, stammering incredulously, said, "You want $100,000 for 11 bodies?" "Yes," Olsen continued, "and you'll get the statements with the bodies. I'll give you all the evidence, only the things the killer would know." "Just a minute," said the detective. "We have to work something out. I wouldn't just pay you $100,000. You could rip us off.
Right.
Also, I have to have something to tell or show my bosses, in fact, that you're credible."
Yeah.
So he said, "Okay, I'll give you a freebie. I'll give you 1 body and a statement. Then you have the $100,000 in cash. When we're finished at the scene, I'll phone, or you will phone your man who handed the money over to Joan," which is his wife.
Right.
"Then you can talk to your man, and I'll talk to Joan to make sure that she has the money. Then you'll get the rest." So he tells them, "I'll take you to 1, but then you have to give my wife $100,000 cash right then.
To see the rest.
Right then and there if you want to get the rest." And then the detective asked, "What if your lawyer doesn't go along with it?" And he said, "Like I told you before, he works for me." Later, Olsen calls his wife Joan and says, "Honey, you're going to be rich."
Off $100,000.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the 80s,
Yeah,
but still,
that's true.
So the problem was for the investigators, there wasn't a shred of evidence according to them. And the pact was the only way to ensure that he was convicted. So
Where's the DNA?
So this is the
in
thing,
his,
right? Like
in his vehicle.
So they couldn't get it. There has to have been
There's
a way.
a ton.
In my mind, there has to have been something somewhere. He's putting them in cars and driving them around.
Exactly.
And I know it's the 80s, and I understand that it's confusing. But
DNA was still there.
You know, the minister who was responsible for this gentleman, last name is Williams. I apologize, I don't have his first name here. He was the one that was required to approve it. Like it came down to him, and if he didn't agree to the terms, he was told by investigators that there was a chance that Olsen might slip back on the streets and kill again.
Right.
So here's the fear, right? Like we can't hold him without bail forever on these burglary charges. We don't have enough to hold him right now without bail. So we'd have to turn him loose during the investigation. If we turn this guy loose during the investigation, he's obviously going to kill again.
Right.
You know, so they decide to strike the deal. Obviously, when the details were made public, the citizens of Canada were outraged.
Oh, yeah.
And this gentleman, Williams, tried to say, I consider this case unique. I don't expect it to occur again. Which is like he's like trying to be like, I get it. It's crazy, but it probably won't happen again. It's like, that's not good enough, bro.
And it does.
Okay, so what shouldn't be a surprise to anybody involved is that Williams' career was basically finished at this point.
I bet.
And to be very clear, police tried unsuccessfully to recover the money. The families went to court many times to try to recover the money. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada, which is not called the Supreme Court of Canada. I'm sorry. And they weren't going to hear the case.
I think it's called Kangaroo Court.
I believe that is correct.
I think so.
I believe it is the Maple Syrup
Sounds like
Council.
there's a shit show going on over there.
Yeah. So in January of 1982, Olsen pleads guilty to 11 counts of murder and was given concurrent life sentences for each of them.
So he did keep up his end of the
kept
bargain.
up his end of the
and
bargain.
he showed him where everybody
Showed him
is.
where everybody was. Apparently, it was quite the clown show. Him driving them around and him, being taken out, and so back to back sentences in Canada's super maximum security prison. Right.
Okay.
So Olsen, I mentioned before on this psychopathy checklist, scored 38 out of 40. That's what it was. And forensic psychiatrist Stanley Semrau, S-E-M-R-A-U, apologies for butchering your name, interviewed Olsen at length in prison. Like he was there constantly talking to him. It was the highest score that he had ever given out of any of the hundreds of murderers, psychopaths, and sexual offenders that he had studied.
Wow.
He said, I found his descriptions to be quite nauseating compared to the other cases I've been involved in. So this is a guy that's interviewed hundreds of these people, and this dude was like, he's too much. Olsen would describe with delight. So I guess his sexual assaults of 30 to 40 children of both sexes, aged 5 to 10. So outside of these murders,
admitted to
outside
that
of these
too?
murders, yeah,
Holy
as well as up to
shit.
100 young people aged 16 to 18. Olsen said he became, quote, addicted to murder and had a, quote, incredibly morbid fascination with how children went through the process of dying. So he liked.
Oh my
that was
God.
his thing. That was his whole juice,
Why? And he never tried this on his own child.
No.
Wow.
Which says something. I don't know what it says, but it says something. Even after he was locked away, Olsen continued to plague police, victims' families, and the public. He would send venomous, vulgar greeting cards to parents crowing about his brutality to their children.
Oh my God.
He sent pornographic letters to the members of Parliament. Now, I cannot find how that is possible. Parliament, I don't care about.
Right.
I mean, whatever. It's gross.
Aren't they checking your mail that's going out?
I just don't understand. I don't get it. How you could A, get their address,
Holy shit.
and then B, send them the letters, And I would imagine it had to have stopped fairly quickly.
I mean, you lost your child, and then this monster
sends
is
you a
sending
letter about
you
it.
letters
This is
about
what I
it
did, and this is how much I
to
enjoyed
relive it, and boasting about it.
Yeah. So reading through these articles,
Oh
I
my
couldn't
God.
confirm that in another place, and I couldn't confirm how long it lasted or how many letters were said. So but even if it's one, it's too many. Like how could it possibly even be one?
So his wife actually got the money, the $100,000.
Oh, his wife got the money. His wife got the money, got to keep the money, went into a trust for him and his.
That's
for
what
his
I like
child.
to call the deal with the devil.
Yes. So he claimed to have murdered as many as 30 others, but was never able to substantiate that. So he couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
Despite leading investigators on several wild goose chases, he offered the cops a deal of 20 more graves for another $100,000. The state said, "No, that's enough. We're not
We've already got him on life." Yeah.
we're not interested in that.
Yeah.
So controversy again was stirred up around this guy in March of 2010 when the media disclosed that Olsen was receiving 2 federal government checks from Canada, totaling $1,169 a month.
For what?
He was eligible to receive Canadian Old Age Security Pension. And in addition to that, he was receiving an additional stipend for guaranteed income supplement awarded to pensioners with low income.
Wait, I thought when you were an inmate, you don't get government benefits.
In Canada, that's not the case.
Oh, Canada.
All this money was going into a trust for him, being held for him. Now, obviously, he's never going to get out, right?
But then when he dies, it goes to his wife or son.
I would imagine that's probably what happened. So a group called the Canadian Taxpayer Federation presented the government with 46,000 signatures requesting to no longer let this guy get his money. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
Why are we paying this guy?
Well, he's not the only one, right?
He's never going to get out. No, he's not the only one.
All the inmates in Canada.
Exactly.
Holy smokes. I thought we were bad.
So Prime Minister Stephen Harper asked government officials to look into the issue. On June 1st, 2010, the government moved to terminate Olsen's payments,
Sweet Jesus.
calling the fact that he had been receiving them outrageous and offensive, which, of course, as our reaction proves, they for sure are. In September 20, this is such a shit move. In September of 2010, Olsen sent one of his old age security checks to a Sun media reporter named Peter Worthington with a note asking him to forward the check to Harper's campaign for re-election, right? So the prime minister comes out and says, this guy shouldn't get any checks. So what a you move, right?
Yep.
Like, you know what? Send it to him for re-election.
Yeah.
I got money to spend. Whatever.
Yep.
Look at this, you know?
Right.
So I did some research on this after the fact. There was legislation presented into Canadian Parliament to end this practice
Because of him.
For him and for a group of other inmates that were never going to get out, right? Like, I understand it. Like, hey, you're in jail for bank robbery. You're in there for 20 years. You're going to get out. If you get out with no money, you're probably going to go back to crime, you know? So I understand the logic behind some sort of safety net to ensure that people don't go back to crime. I can see you totally disagree with me,
yeah,
which is totally fine. And I'm happy to have that conversation with you sometime.
Taxpayers should not be funding these.
Yeah, totally. I understand. Yeah. I understand. Totally get it. So Canada, you'll correct me in the comments, I'm sure, which you should. I couldn't find anything about the law passing. So I found articles. I found articles related to this law being introduced into legislation, introduced because of Olsen. I found those articles, but there was never anything. Are you thinking that it's still
going on then?
I'm thinking it could be because I never found anything, but it also boggles the mind. It also
Canada,
boggles
tell
the
us,
mind.
Are you guys funding the lifestyle of federal inmates?
Or just pumping money into an account that's never going to go anywhere? Because
it's going to go to their next of kin.
Right. So in September of 2011, it was reported that Olsen had terminal cancer and he was transferred to a hospital.
Forgive me for not being crying about it.
Where he died on September 30th at the age of 71.
Aww.
So one of the things that I come back to as I think about this case, because even at one point he was helping investigators with the Green River killings in Washington. Mm-hmm. He never said that he was a suspect, but said that he had information, and that never really came to much. He also said that he had information on murders all through the U.S., all places where he also happened to vacation, oddly enough. But they never, again, nothing came to light of that. And the reason why it's hard for me to fathom him having that many more murders out there is because from the time that he was 17, he was only free for 1,501 days. So from the time he turned 17, he only ever spent that much time. And he died at 71, you know.
So he's probably making it up for the glamour of it.
Right, because he apparently got off on being a celebrity. Like, I'm a celebrity.
Oh, I'm
People
sure.
know who I am.
Yeah.
Let me keep ratcheting it up. But if he killed with the same frequency that he killed in his hometown in that area, it's also not impossible to think.
But you can also see an acceleration in his crimes,
right?
No,
for sure. Yeah, so it starts with these like little robberies, little burglaries. And
does he have a 5-finger forehead?
No.
He doesn't.
He doesn't. This may be the one that
this
bucks
might
the
be
system.
the one that bucks the system.
But he is a complete dummy. There's one story that didn't quite fit into the narrative that I really enjoyed and I wanted to share with you guys. So he was imprisoned in this old Canadian prison that they then closed down, and they closed down part of it and kept part of it open as sort of a tourist attraction, like an Alcatraz-y type of thing. While he had escaped once, he had warrants out, excuse me. I don't know if he was escaping or not, but he had warrants out. He went back as a tourist, went back to look at his old jail cell. And one of the people working there was a prison guard there at the time. He's like, hey, this guy's got like warrants, you know? So they arrested him. Oh my
God.
They arrested him when he went back to visit.
Thank God for dumb criminals.
Cell. Yeah, exactly.
Thank God.
Exactly. So,
like, why?
Yeah, it's the hubris of it all, you know? So he was like just an incredibly he was a monster. You know what I mean? He was just an unbelievable monster. And the whole way this whole story breaks out, him repeatedly in and out of jail, in and out of jail, in and out of jail.
It's a revolving door.
And then as soon as he gets out, this string of murders that I had never heard of anything like that.
That's quick.
You know? And then the payment from the government, paying him off to keep him off the streets.
That's probably what pissed off the Canadian community.
Of course.
Because
they
it's
were livid.
You know, did you really have nothing on him?
Right. You can't find anything.
You can't find any. Come on.
This guy's a career criminal. You at least
and
watch
he's dumb.
him. Yeah. You at least watch him break into 2 places. So you watch that. I mean, and I know that there's probably limitations on how long you put somebody away for, but you saw him pick up these 2 hitchhikers. You had the name of one of the victims in the car. We can't give it some time.
You know who I'd love to talk to? The 2 hitchhikers that he picked up last.
Oh my God.
Because they barely made it out alive.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to talk to them? Like, whoa.
That was the last time they hitchhiked.
I'm sure.
of it.
I'm sure, but it was popular back then. Like
It was
nobody
wild.
cared.
Yeah,
you know,
it's for us to think about that. The fact that people would hitchhike to get around blows my mind.
but the community had to be in uproar because they were all children.
Oh, they were livid. Yeah, the community couldn't believe it, and they fought these court battles for this money went on for years and years and years.
I
and
bet it
years.
was all over the papers
Of
and the media and
course.
stuff.
Yeah, because the victims' families are like, but what?
Yeah, like we're
so
giving
this is justice for my child that we pay this guy to say what happened.
So let me ask you: did you ever find out? Because you know whether the wife knew anything?
No, she's very adamant that she didn't know anything. She's very adamant that she was a victim. She's very adamant about these things, but she also said, "I don't feel bad about taking this money. This is not. I didn't do this.
Right.
I sleep fine. I believe she said something to the effect of, I sleep fine at night." But no, there's no evidence that points to the fact. It's just strange to me. I don't know if I would take the money, but I don't know if I was broke and had no money and it was the
and
only
you have
thing
a
I
kid to
had.
serve,
You know, you
yeah.
got a kid, you got to do what
To
you can.
feed.
But the phone call where he says, "Honey, you're going to be rich," the guy's a psychopath.
Yeah.
The guy has no feelings, and the guy maybe thinks that matters. Like, hey, there's this nice thing I've done for you. I don't know, but it's like that conversation seems really weird to me.
Yeah, like
That she didn't know anything,
why wouldn't she immediately think, "Oh, he must have won the lotto"?
right? Or like, at least there's nothing I found where there was never a moment where she's like, "I don't want the money. I don't want anything to do with it." I mean, she made it very clear that she wasn't involved, for sure. But
I don't blame
It's that
her.
weird
I
moment.
blame the government for even offering it.
it blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because these are not like stealthy, smart killings. These are brutal bludgeonings of people.
You know, the U.S. has a policy that we don't negotiate for hostages
Yeah.
or transfer any payment or anything, which I think is a good policy because
Yeah.
it can just get out of hand and it gives
encourages-
people. Yeah. So, I mean, it's well known that we don't do that. So what they try to do is they strong arm the families.
right.
Like, hey, the U.S. government obviously has a boatload of money, but we're not going to get it. So maybe their families.
Right.
You know, we'll throw in $100,000 or something like that to Somalia or wherever it might go. So, I just can't believe that they perpetuated that, the Canadian government.
Right. It feels like there's no way that somebody else wouldn't have come along and been like,
This is a bad idea.
yeah, you know.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, well, I could tell you about 60 more for another $100,000.
another $100,000.
It's like,
And-
what is this? The price is right?
Exactly. We're negotiating.
Yeah.
We're cutting deals. This isn't the flea market,
No,
bro. This
it's
is supposed to be
not.
the criminal justice system. Dun dun.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little Law and Order for you.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
So this, like, I can't think, and let me find her name again, or I'm assuming it's Lee. Lee could be
Yeah.
either way.
This is crazy.
Yeah, this story was super enlightening.
But I wonder if like other criminals try to do the same
McLean.
thing, right? Like to get money.
Well, I
'Cause if
wonder
it
if
worked for
Canada
him-
made it a policy like us now where we don't negotiate with.
I would hope so.
I would
Because
hope
I would think
so.
the same thing where it's like, yeah, sweetheart, I did murder a bunch of people, but I'm not leaving you empty-handed. So I'm not the
Yeah.
worst husband in the world.
But we have seen the U.S. negotiate for hostages, giving other hostages. So in other words,
Yes.
like if we
Yeah.
have, I think it was Al Qaeda people.
yeah.
We had them in Guantanamo Bay, and we traded several of them for maybe one or two soldiers.
Yeah, and we've done that in the past as well, like during the Cold War with the
Right.
Soviet Union.
Right.
You got some of my spies, I got some of your spies.
Right.
You know, but that's so like Al Qaeda aside, like governmental offices trading back and forth. Okay,
Yeah.
Al Qaeda is hard to recognize as a government. But
Right. But this is egregious because of what he did, and he played him. He played him
Of
like
course
a
he did.
fiddle, man.
And the fact that right away, it was fairly quickly, he's like, all right, here's the deal.
yeah.
You give me this money, I'll give you these bodies. Which is just so wild.
And for a dumb guy, though, it worked.
It did work. Yeah.
Have you?
And he gets to keep tormenting that family. Every time
Yeah.
the family goes to court and tries to fight to claw the money back,
the
they can't
letters
do
were
it.
bull.
Yes.
So here, all of the mail, outgoing and incoming, is opened and read and searched.
Right.
How theirs was not is beyond me.
Like that's
And it wasn't just one letter.
No, that's the thing. Like, according to this source, I believe that section did come from an article that was listed in Murderpedia. Yeah, it clearly states letters. It clearly
Can you
gives the
imagine that?
implication of
I
multiple.
couldn't imagine.
I
would be fuming.
Yeah, you
You gotta
greeting
wonder.
cards
Yeah.
to parents plural, crowing about his brutality to their children. How do you even get their, how do you get their
Addresses.
address?
Yeah. Well, exactly. This was way before Google.
Right.
So how did he get their address?
You're in prison.
You got to wonder if the wife was feeding him information.
That's possible.
Because they had communication.
Or
I don't know if a lawyer would do that.
They shouldn't, right?
Right. I mean, but then again, I don't know if a government would pay off a serial killer.
This is a good point. There's a lot of things within this story.
You know, have you guys seen the Netflix series, the Squid Game?
I haven't watched it yet. Is it good?
No, not yet.
Okay, so not to spoil it for you, it's definitely, you got to watch it. But when I was first told about it, I was told, oh God, you know, don't watch it. It's extremely graphic, which it is. But afterwards, I took away something from it that probably a lot of people didn't. So it's basically a very adult version of Hunger Games.
Okay.
Okay. So, but these people are voluntary. So they're voluntarily signing up to play the game, and the winner gets like billions of dollars, right? Like an ungodly amount.
Right.
So they're willingly there. So my takeaway after watching the whole series was these games are designed, like if you lose, they kill you. So why aren't we putting death row people, like federal prisoners, in this game?
Sure.
And having society pay to watch it, and the only surviving person goes free?
Yeah, like that. I think that's the plot for Running Man, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and I think for sure,
or Squid Game.
Yeah,
that's how Squid Game works. But I'm saying instead of these these guys just volunteering, they don't realize what they're volunteering for.
Sure,
they just know they're going to play a game, and that they could win money.
Right.
They don't know if you lose that particular game, you will have a bullet in your head.
Right. You're dead. Yeah.
But I'm saying, why aren't we doing this? Clearly, it's popular. Small Korean production company sells this to Netflix. It's number one on Netflix.
Right.
Right. Everyone liked Spartacus. Everyone liked Hunger Games. Are you seeing where I'm going here?
No, I got it.
America loves violence. Okay.
We do. We're big fans of it.
So, and I'm a big fan of saving taxpayers' money.
Sure.
So I say throw all the inmates in a pit and let the games begin.
Well, I guess the counter argument would be a civilized society wouldn't necessarily do that.
But a civilized society is watching it, and I'm paying Netflix for it. I will gladly pay whoever decides to do this for front row seats.
Yeah, I think that's an entertainment idea that's been bandied about a fair amount.
I think it absolutely has.
So I used to work for a company, and they lobbied really hard in the courts to stream Timothy McVeigh's execution.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I'd pay for it.
They didn't win the case. They did AskOJ.com, where it was really early on in the early days of the internet, and OJ basically sat in front of a webcam and you could chat and ask him questions. And but
he's not going to tell the truth.
Of course he's not going to tell the truth. But on the back of that, they're like, well, let's try to
so what
stream
if you what if you did that on a pay-per-view type thing?
I don't know. Like I totally understand the impulse. I get the impulse. I'm with you on that. But at the same time,
you would not want to watch the execution of a serial killer?
No, I wouldn't.
Would you?
No interest.
No.
That being said, with one caveat,
I wouldn't want to watch it. Like
I would even make popcorn.
Call Spalding Decon to clean it up afterwards.
Yes. And I'll even clean it up for free.
As long as we can brand it. One caveat: if that person killed a loved one of mine, I would want to watch it.
It's different then.
It is. Like that's the difference. Like I would want to watch that for sure. I get the impulse, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. There's something wrong with it, but
vote for me. I'm not running for anything, but
a pit for every inmate.
Yes,
a streaming execution for taxpaying citizens.
You know, if it was a criminal, like say it was like child molesters, child rape, like I would watch that.
Now she's going to be choosy about it.
Yes, I will pick and choose what I want.
What the hell? I said the worst of the worst.
But that it hits different.
What do you mean?
Like it's just.
What about this guy? He's a serial killer.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like people like him. Like I get that. Like it's just when you do crimes against kids, right?
Sure. Well, this guy did. Yeah. So
these are kids.
So she's saying he's okay as long as it's a crime against a child. Fees in.
Yeah, like when it's like
I'm non-discriminatory.
Did you cut off 17 or 18?
Come on, man.
No.
I'm non-discriminatory. You hit an old lady, you kill her, you murder her, whatever.
Exactly.
You're going in the pit, baby. You're going in the pit.
No, I mean, they can go in the pit, but
I will say this.
What about some jousting? Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes, it would. Jousting I'm into. Okay, that's cool. I will say this. I may not watch your show, but I would go to your campaign rallies because Get in the Pit Baby is a pretty good campaign. You just put up images of criminals in the pit, baby.
Exactly.
Over
See?
and over again.
In the pit, baby. So
Yeah.
how many Americans or Canadians for that matter would want to see my idea?
Tell us in the comments.
Tell us in the comments.
And we're
Is
going to
this,
track you.
is
because
this a
you should be
crazy
watched.
idea or
We're
is
gonna
this a
report.
good
Yeah.
idea? I think it's a fabulous
I think
idea.
people would absolutely watch it. I think it would be a massive hit.
I mean, have you met Americans?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We are like, there's murders every minute of the day.
I stopped watching the UFC when they started putting more rules in. Like, if you go
Yeah.
back to the no rules, I'd be watching more UFC.
But you're against my pit idea.
I am against your pit idea.
All right, guys, let us know what you think about that, and thank you again, Ron Jeremy, for the
How dare
for
you?
the
How
for
very
the-
dare you?
the great story.
My pleasure, Rosie.
We'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Instagram at Crime Scene Cleaning. Have a great day.